Good afternoon. This is good morning, actually. Good morning. This is Talib Kareem with STEM4US, and I am excited to be with you live from the DC region, the National Capitals region, where we are challenged. We're challenged with a crisis. Some people say that it's a youth crime or youth violence crisis. Uh, and they say that because we are experiencing all kinds of violence happening in our region. We have carjackings, over 900 and close to 950 carjackings in the District of Columbia. In Maryland, over 1,200, including a doubling of carjackings in very posh neighborhoods such as Montgomery County. And in Baltimore, also a crisis in carjackings, but not just carjackings. We have even mob looting happening. Just recently, a few young people were found to be robbing restaurants, even around this time of the year, where people are crowding into these restaurants to celebrate, and they were robbing these small-owned restaurants and the people who are patronizing them in the downtown neighborhood of Silver Spring, Maryland. These are just some of the problems that we're facing, and so because of these challenges, we have to come up with new solutions. These problems are so dire that companies such as sports teams, such as the Washington Wizards and the Washington Capitals, have announced plans to relocate from the district. And even in Prince George's County, the Washington Commanders has signed leases or purchases for long tracts of land in Northern Virginia, indicating that the likelihood is that they may too move outside of the urban community to a supposed more safe community of Northern Virginia. These are some of the challenges facing business leaders, government leaders, law enforcement leaders, and leaders of all kinds. And so with that, we are joined by just representatives from those various communities. And we're going to be talking to them and getting their understanding about their experiences, their ideas, particularly innovative ideas that have some relationship to what we're about, STEM4US, and that is training young people for cyber careers and creating a more diverse cyber workforce. That's the mission for the past 10 years. STEM4US has been involved in that mission. And so we're very excited about this conversation. Stand by. I'm going to be introducing them, but first starting off with the greeting from STEM4US from our STEM4US Vice Chair. So stand by for an extremely rewarding conversation. If you like the conversation, don't hesitate to click the like button, and also share this with your friends and family, and put those questions into the background or into the chat, and we will absolutely get to them before we conclude. So stand by and let's get ready to have a wonderful, innovative driven conversation. So I'm back, and I am here with none other than our STEM4US Vice Chairwoman, and that is Sharifa Maston. Sharifa, please welcome this wonderful gathering of experts and all of those who are listening in their homes from around the world to this conversation, and tell us a little bit about why STEM4US means so much to you as the Vice Chairwoman.
Yeah, well, thank you, Talib. It's my pleasure to be able to welcome everyone to this program today on behalf of the entire board of STEM4US. David Owens, the chairman, was unable to join. I know he wanted to be here today, and so I'm happy to step in, though, and welcome everyone. This program, to me, is dear to my heart, and not just because I sit on the board of STEM4US. Focusing on youth and how we create paths for youth is something I'm very passionate about. And So when you talk about all the violence and things happen, I do recall, even I being younger and probably, I don't want to give my age away here, but probably about 30 years ago, I was living in another city, but at that time, President Clinton developed a program called Counter Drug and Drug Demand Reduction. Um, and what he was using were people in the community from National Guard because they lived in the community. And we're having this conversation today, which happens, it's like we're going back into a cycle. These things are happening again. And being part of that program and help standing it up for me and looking at STEM4US is trying to do today, 30 years later, we haven't found a way. Um, we come up with solutions that work for a while, but we haven't found a lasting solution. And regardless of where youth is today, whether they're in the inner city, they're in rural areas, creating opportunities. That's what we need to create for them. When they feel they have no hope, which is why they turn to crime. Um, and it's unfortunate. You hear about it every day. He gave statistics on what's happening in the DMV area, and think about how condensed this is, but it's happening across the country. Um, and so by developing jobs, giving them a positive path that they can go down, yes, the jobs and stuff, we have to attack it from the beginning, before hopefully they get incarcerated and then after. And I think that's the ideal with STEM4US is how do we address this? How do we have, create those opportunities um, and give them hope? But it's also by business leaders, government leaders. I mean, we're in DC. The bulk of the government leaders for this great nation is right here, but we're not addressing the future of, the future of America. It's not those that are going to be talking today. We need to set it up for the youth to take over from us, but set them on the right path. Um, to have a future where they have livable wages, where they don't need to turn to crime, focus them on something that is better for them, their family, as well as the community. That's, and the conversations they're going to have today, and you're going to hear from, you know, uh, different perspectives, but everybody has the same focus. How can we attack? How can we address this problem, but come up not just with a solution, but we want one that is feasible, that can be done. You can talk about it, but we need action. So I'm excited for who you have today, coming from different areas from the state attorney's office, behavioral health, and you're talking to leaders. And that's, as a leader, this is our job, is also to help motivate others. Um, to help come to a sorry right there, just my thoughts got way ahead of me, but to talk, and to motivate you to want to help in this and be a part of the solution, not just standing by. So excited for that to happen. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Talib, and he's going to take you the rest of the way, but interested to hear what you have to say. Stay engaging with us, and we are looking forward to this. And I am looking forward to STEM4US becoming a name synonymous with solutions for youth. Um, so thank you.
Thank you to our board chair, vice chairwoman, uh, Sharifa Maston, who is herself a technology executive. And given that you are a technology executive, would you mind, Sharifa, staying with us and maybe even engaging in conversation on the panel? I think your perspective could, if you have the time. I know you tech execs have a lot of work on your hands, but if you would, that would be an awesome contribution. Would you mind?
I do have some time. I just will make a quick shift. It is going into the holidays, and as you know, one of my biggest thing is I work a lot in HR with people. And so heading into those holidays, I'm happy to join when I can and for as long as I can, but I might
Thank,
need to jump off.
thank you so much, and I think we'll have a wonderful conversation with you. So with that, let me actually get a presentation briefly on our take as STEM4US. We have seen the headlines, and sure as everyone has seen in this region, about the just outrageous youth violence. And we say youth violence because, especially when it relates to the issue of carjacking, we have, again, over 60 to 70% of that being committed by teens, who oftentimes, because of the focus on not wanting to incarcerate, have been essentially being essentially exploited and being used by adults because they know that the system is designed to help them. And so these adults, these adults actually go and, encourage these young people to commit these crimes, realizing that they'll be able to be back out on the streets, sadly, to do more crimes. And so we, as STEM4US, we have an approach, and I'm going to actually show you our approach here momentarily, which is called the STEM4US Cyber Reentry Program, built on training young people for both cyber jobs as well as construction jobs. So let me show that that background to you, and you can see we're going into different tracks because we know that not everyone can be a Steve Jobs or someone who's creating platforms such as this one, StreamYard or YouTube or Facebook and all the other platforms, Instagram, TikTok that we use. But people also can be trained to use their hands as well as their mind in the area of construction. So that's the backdrop. And we believe that if we are able to get the type of funding that is needed, and we'll talk a little bit more about that funding as we go through the slide deck, we can actually break this cycle of violence that is claiming so many young people every single day. And why is that? And we're going to let's go into some of the challenges that we see as we go through our PowerPoint presentation. One of the things that we realize is that, again, the problem that a lot of young people are facing, we as STEM4US noticed a trend that we, for the past 10 years, have trained and engaged thousands of young people across the country. And one of the things that we saw with these young people is that they were coming from families whose parents were pretty much monitoring them and making sure that they were in the right programs, both in school and after school, doing their homework, which is one of the number one determinants for whether a child is going to actually fall into the criminal justice system, is someone who is there helping that child with their homework on a daily basis, as well as school attendance. And we'll talk a little bit more about this. So we were challenged, in fact, by the state's attorney for Prince George's County, Aisha Braveboy, whose representative Perry Pala is here, to come up with programs not just for the young people in the Kappa League, which is one of our big projects that we do with Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity, but young people who don't have those opportunities. And so we dedicated ourselves to actually learn what was driving some of this violence that we saw. And there are two striking elements that were realized. One, economic insecurity, one of the major factors, but not only economic insecurity. Another factor was, again, a lack of parental supervision, particularly by young men from older men. And we saw, as we started to study this, that there were a number of factors that were creating this outcome. almost kind of a manufactured outcome by public policy. One public policy that I'm sure we all know of is the Women, Infants, and Children's Program and other welfare-related programs that were only specifically geared for women, infants, and children. So if you had a man living in a household, that family could be, in fact, disqualified from receiving these benefits that they all needed. Another program that, again, made good intended, the Violence Against Women's Act, which was designed to protect people in homes from violence. But the way in which it was actually rolled out was again geared to actually almost evacuate men from households. So anytime, even when there is an argument between a man and a woman in a household, oftentimes the data suggests that women are equally, if not more, prone to commit what they call interfamily offenses, but men don't report these. And so again, it became almost exclusively a situation where men were being reported on, and the only tool that judges had to address this was a mandatory eviction from the household of the male for no less than a year. So these are some of the factors that we saw that were contributing to the elimination of men inside the households, which could be a reinforcement to the women and making sure that our young boys were learning time management, we're learning self-discipline, we're learning delayed gratification, we're learning the value of authority and hard work. So these are some of the factors that we saw. And so what STEM4US has come up with is a plan to capture the young people who have fallen through those cracks, who are incarcerated, serving at least 6 months to a year in time, and to give them an opportunity to provide them 600 hours of training in either the cyber track or the construction skills track, where they will be able to get not only training with respect to these areas and landing jobs either as an IT network technician or a electrical solar panel and EV systems installation technician, but they will also be getting the mental health support. They will be getting soft skills training about how to do a resume, how to draft a resume, how to present themselves in an interview, how to network, and how, more importantly, to keep and value a job. And so these are some of the things that we're looking at. And also, we realized as we studied that we couldn't just focus on the young people, but we also had to focus and provide supports to their families. So the program will also be requiring families who want to see their young people who are a part of this program to also participate. And so this is what STEM4US has developed. And for every young person who goes to this program, we are promising them either a job or an opportunity for them to have their own company. So you will either be, because we realize that some young people may not actually be able to be placed as employees in a company, but a company may be willing to take a gamble on hiring that company as one of its vendors. And so these are the things that we are excited about. And with the support of the people who are gathered with us today on this in this webinar, as well as those who are listening in government offices across this country, we have the ability. Our idea is to stand up 3 demonstration projects, one in Prince George's County, one in the District of Columbia, and one in Montgomery County, Maryland, and then to expand to Virginia and to Tennessee, Michigan, and Minnesota as demonstration projects, and then to again get these programs established in every city across this country. That's our goal, but we can only do it with your help. So without any further ado, let us bring on our speakers, because we really wanted to get them involved in the conversation, and I know they have a lot to say. So let me start with Dr. Barbara Bazran, who is the director of the DC Department of Behavioral Health and a representative of the Deputy Mayor for Health and Human Services, Wayne Turnage, for whom I had the great pleasure of working as his chief of staff in the very beginning of his time there in DC government. Also, We have, and again, Deputy Mayor Turnage is the deputy to, of course, Mayor Muriel Bowser, who has been on the forefront of trying to address this issue of the rising youth violence rates. So we are grateful for their participation. We also have Perry Paler, Attorney Perry Paler, who is the Deputy State's Attorney for Prince George's County. And he is an attorney and also a member of Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity, which is referenced before, has a program, in fact, the longest standing mentoring program in the country called the Guide Right program. And we are very grateful, particularly to have the Hyattsville Landover Maryland alumni chapter of Kappa Alpha Psi as one of our partners for the work that we do in the community there in Prince George's County. And also, as was mentioned before, we have Sharifa Maston. Sharifa Maston is the CEO, as we mentioned before, of Mission to Change. And she's also the vice chairperson for STEM4US. But more importantly, she is the director for human relations for one of the leading technology companies called Barbaricon. And that is an organization that is leading the technological innovations, doing a lot of work with our government contractors. And so again, because this conversation is going to ultimately center on how do we convince HR executives in both the cyber career fields as well as the construction career fields to give our young people a second chance. Having Sharifa in on this conversation is absolutely imperative. So I'm going to stop my conversations and turn it over to you. I want to first start with Dr. Bazran. Dr. Bazran, can you tell me a little bit about, your role, your organization, and what has it done in the past year to contribute to this issue of changing the dynamics around youth violence and how our young people are, really driving away businesses, as perhaps may be the case with the Washington Wizards and the Washington Capitals?
Good afternoon. Good morning, everyone. I guess it's still morning at this time. It's really a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me. I'd like to first say a couple of words about what the Department of Behavioral Health does and what our mission is as a department. The Department of Behavioral Health is the single state authority for behavioral health services within the District of Columbia. And our job is to provide the full continuum of behavioral health services. That means mental health services as well as substance use disorder services for our residents within the community. We provide services for the full range of ages from birth all the way up through end of life, as well as operating St. Elizabeth's Hospital. One of the things that I do want to say is that we provide a range of trauma-informed care, and that I think is critical for the particular population of focus that we're talking about today. I'd really like to emphasize that there isn't a direct correlation between behavioral health disorders and a youth's propensity to commit a crime. We don't want to stigmatize this population or promote the idea that because a child is diagnosed with a mental health condition, they are prone to engage in unlawful activity. A more plausible correlation, it is really very similar to what the speaker said before. And that is that there is a relationship between the social determinants of health that face young people and their families that lead to some of the issues that we see. This is a more plausible correlation. The lack of protective factors, the lack of supports and healthy coping mechanisms that lead to poor choices, psychological distress, and physiological stress responses that obviously may cause adverse mental health conditions. Now, The question that you asked before is, could you please talk a little bit about some of the things that your organization does specifically to address this issue? We work, first of all, in collaboration with other agencies within government. I strongly believe that this is a community issue, and no one organization or agency can do this alone. In addition to providing the full range of prevention, early intervention, and treatment services to assist youth to address their trauma experiences, we provide services to strengthen life skills such as conflict resolution, resiliency building, and adaptive coping skills. It's really with these evidence-based and evidence-informed prevention and early intervention efforts, along with our continued collaboration with other agencies and entities within our community, that we can address this issue. I want to talk specifically about some of the services. We do have, thanks to the support of Mayor Bowser and Council, have school-based behavioral health services within every public and public charter school. That means that young people can get the services they need where they are during the day. We have school-based clinicians that provide curriculum-based prevention services to help youth acquire positive decision-making skills like too good for violence, and those that build resiliency. We have classroom observations that happen by our clinicians so that we can identify youth who may need mental health support and provide proper screening and connection to care for them and their family. We also have parental support services, and we got to really talk about the fact that parents need support. And we need to involve them and engage them in supporting their young person. We have to start upstream, and we do. We have parent-child interaction therapy labs at 2 locations that serve families with children 0 to 6 years of age that help parents develop behavior management strategies that support positive interactions with their children. Two-way mirror. Parent is in a room with their child, playing with their child and providing direction to their child. There is a bug in their ear, and there's a clinician behind a glass window that provides them with feedback in terms of how to develop those skills. This has been extremely successful and has really resulted in stronger parent-child relationships. We also have a variety of trauma-focused evidence-based practices, a whole suite of them that are really family-focused and deal with children ages 2 to 18. In addition, I do want to say that we also have some specialized services that are designed for youth who are involved with the criminal justice system. I wanted you, if I have a moment, to really focus on one program called the Juvenile Behavioral Diversion Program, where court-involved juvenile status offenders are given the opportunity to participate in mental health services rather than being prosecuted. This has been very successful. We had 10 youth graduate from the program in 2023. The one-year recidivism rates are lower than the national average since the inception of the program, and we are currently in the process of collating our data for this current year. This whole variety and suite of services are critically important. Prevention, intervention, treatment, screening, connection to care, and follow-up with families.
Well, that was an amazing presentation. And, this is the type of conversation that I think is important so people can understand that there's more than just a solution relating to, incarceration or monitoring or the ways technology can perhaps address these types of issues by disabling cars once the cars are taken by these young people. One of the solutions, as was mentioned by our speakers, is a mental health solution. And I think that's a very potent solution.
And Mr. Kareem, if I can just tell people, if If you need services, you only have to call 988 to get connected to care. Thank you.
In the District of Columbia.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, we appreciate that. So we have with us a real legend also, and that is Judge Zia Faruqi, U.S. Magistrate Judge for the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia, a federal court magistrate judge, and one of, if not the first, Muslim American magistrate judge in the country, and he brings to this conversation a background in cybercrime prosecution as a prosecutor with the Department of Justice before being elevated to the bench. But in addition, Judge Faruqi has innovated, if you will, his own program in partnership with the DC jails that he's going to talk a little bit about as a one idea that, in fact, STEM4US is borrowing from for our cyber and construction reentry program. So without any further ado, and also we bring the judge on because he has understanding about the challenge that other judges face, particularly when sentencing youth offenders. Again, this balance of wanting to have young people who we can rehabilitate, but then also we can hold accountable for their mistakes. And I know at least in some states, such as the state of Maryland, they're looking at how young people, because they don't really have developed frontal cortexes, and legally to some extent they don't have the ability to be held liable, but their parents are responsible, should be responsible for better monitoring them. And so they're looking at laws to, in fact, hold parents accountable just as we hold children accountable. And so we look forward to hearing from Judge Faruqi about his innovations to address this issue of youth violence in the National Capital Region and across the country. Without any further ado, Judge Faruqi.
Thanks so much. It's great to be on here, especially with our friends from DBH. We actually have them. We had them here at the courthouse. We had a reentry event a few weeks ago, and it was always amazing to see the incredible work that DBH is doing to support our returning citizens. Really inspirational. In terms of youth violence, I'm happy to talk about the MIT coding program. We're in year 3 that's coming up this summer. We actually expanded now and are partnering with Georgetown as well. So there's college credit that people are getting from the program. And it's been a real game changer, I think. We've had a couple guys who've gotten out and they've used those skills to get, we need 21st century skills for 21st century jobs. I think it's important that we continue to train people in technical skills. People interested in HVAC work, it's great. I want to support them on that. We've got some great programs, including through the DC Department of Corrections, where they've actually started prior to people returning, get them on that path. People interested in CDL, that's great too. I always say I get road rage from like 30 seconds of DC traffic, and I would not be a well-suited person to a commercial driver's license. I don't want people to feel like that's the only opportunities, and that, computer skills, STEM, that's what we're into. These are, again, we want 21st century skills. So as we look into that, we really try to expand where we're going. We're actually 3 years also at DYRS doing, and at the DC jail for the students, the Maya Angelou students at DC jail, doing a science fair there. We have done a science fair at the in collaboration with MIT, and this year we're expanding with Stanford through a program called Spokes, where there's students who are biking across the country. We're the only carceral city that's providing access in carceral facilities for people to get an opportunity, young people to have some. We did some 3D printing exercises, which the kids found really exciting. Making circuits, electricity. We did the physics of music. Some interesting things here. Kind of trying to expand people's horizons, because if this isn't something you're exposed to in your school or your community, you have no reason to know, that the sky is the limit. Unfortunately, for a lot of young people, it feels like the ground is the limit, and they're not thinking about the opportunities that may exist out there because they're not exposed to it. So, with partnerships of local communities, faith communities, through city organizations, universities especially, Georgetown's Prison and Justice Initiative, and as I said, MIT's Brave Behind Bars is the name of the program. We really tried to find ways to get folks behind computer screens where they're doing real work. And so, that picture you see there, that's from a young man who made his own website, and he was showing it to me in JavaScript. I didn't understand anything. It looked like I was looking at the Matrix because it was totally looked like just code coming down. I understand it, but he showed how you could, with a few quick keystrokes, change things: the color of the website font, what the primary image was, how it used cookies to change what information was collecting. I mean, all stuff that I couldn't understand. And this is from one class. These were the sort of windows into the world that were opened up to him, and it is really revelatory to see how when people are given these opportunities, there are other paths that they want to explore. That's all you want to do, is open doors for people. As you said, and I appreciate it, people have to be held accountable. If they make mistakes, they've got to do that. But the question is that, what are we doing to rehabilitate, and what are we doing to give alternatives to not recidivate? And I think that the court has a really important role in that. I supervise with Judge Walton the Rebuilding Our Lives court, so ROL court. We like to say we're always rolling on in roll court. We surge resources, including STEM education, professional mentorship. We have partnerships with a couple social media companies, a couple tech companies, where we have mentoring of people after they get out. And these are guys that have had done, some 5, 10, 15 years. Our recidivism rate is 0 of people who successfully completed our program. It's incredible. What our reentry court, and we take high-risk individuals. Some reentry courts only take risk individuals. We take high-risk individuals. That was Judge Walton's idea, and I think it's brilliant. And what we found, like in partnerships with Catholic Charities, they've provided a ton of resources. We were with the People's Fundraiser. It's one other organizations helping to support financially some of these folks. All sorts of different community organizations have come through. We got the Federal Defender's Office got holiday meals. We're just trying to give some love back to returning citizens, and then encourage them to find good employment opportunities. We got a guy who's got an excellent job at a local hospital. Another guy who's gone back to the city has provided some resources to him through Project Empowerment to get some resources he needed to find better employment. So really appreciative of the opportunity to be here, talk about some of the great work that I know the other folks on this call doing. And unfortunately, I got to have a hearing at noon. That's why I was apologize for being late. But I'm excited to watch offline and circle back to learn about some of these amazing work that's done by community and state partners, and continue to think about more dynamically about how to address these issues.
That's amazing, Judge Faruqi. We appreciate you. And our next speaker, Perry Paler, comes from the prosecutors' side, where every day they are prosecuting, sadly, young people, oftentimes for carjacking, mob looting, even online cybercrime, which is what you used to be involved with, Judge Faruqi. So Perry, can you tell us about some of the things that you all are doing to put numbers on the board, in terms of the opposite direction, keep the numbers of carjacking going in the downward direction, and what again, novel ideas you guys have, because oftentimes the only approach that prosecutors are known to have is to basically put people in jail, but I know that your prosecutor, your office, led by State Attorney Aisha Braveboy, is definitely about holding young people accountable, but also trying to give them opportunities as well. Can you speak about that? I think you are on mute. There you go.
Okay. Well, first, I want to thank you for giving me an opportunity to participate this morning. Thanks to STEM4US. I'm honored to be here and to present to you today. As indicated before, my name is Perry Paler, Deputy State's Attorney for Prince George's County. I manage several prosecutorial units that includes the Narcotics Intelligence Unit, the Firearms Enforcement Unit, and our Major Crimes Unit. Our Major Crimes Unit is the unit that prosecutes carjacking, motor theft offenses, carjacking, things like that, everything robbery, armed robbery, everything short of homicide. And then we have a separate unit for sex crimes. In terms of responding to your question, first, there's a word that we often use, and we want to make sure that we're all under the same definition when we use the word community. So I looked up the definition. Community is defined as two definitions provided generally. One is a group of people living in the same place or having a particular characteristic in common. Or second, a fellowship, a feeling of fellowship with others as a result of sharing common attitudes, interests, and goals. And, it was presumed at one point that 1 and 2 were interchangeable, that people that live together in close proximity shared the same attitudes, interests, and goals. And so that's important that we recognize the significance of having community input when it comes to solving problems, that they're bigger than just it can be solved in the courthouse one case at a time. And that being, we understand that, we know we can't prosecute ourselves out of this problem. So there's 2 programs that we run here that we, looking to address some of the issues around youth crime and things of that nature. One is our Back on Track program, and these are for adults, young adults that are first-time nonviolent offenders, targeted at early drug dealers or people who possess handguns. And so it's important because we know that our studies have shown that people advance in their criminal activity. So this particular program is for first-time low-level offenders. Upon being arrested, the defendant is offered the opportunity to join our Back on Track program. And this program was created, it's the invention of the Vice President Kamala Harris when she was the district attorney in San Francisco, California. And with this program, you enter a plea of guilty to the lead count. A person has a conviction on their record, and now they are on probation. And part of the terms of their probation is they do about 200 hours of community service. We have life skills, mentoring, but also we pay for academic certifications, GED, academic certifications, all the way through associate's degrees with our partner, Prince George's Community College. And so you have anywhere between 12 to 18 months to successfully complete the program. And then we also work with job placement agencies who help us place these young people. But the highlight of the program is upon successful completion, we have another court hearing where the young person is given probation before judgment, the conviction is stricken, and then their record is immediately expunged. So, you enter the program with a conviction, starting off what could be the beginning of a criminal career, and we have to give you an opportunity to get back on track. And when the program is over, your record's expunged, you've got an academic credential, and oftentimes a new career. And so we've had great success with that over the last few years. When Ms. Braveboy came into office, the Back on Track program had 2 participants. We have since graduated about 15, and now we have another 20 that are participating now. And we expect a large graduation in June. And so that we're really proud of that program that gives people a second chance. And one of the things is that, what really pleases us is that the young men are starting to create their own community, right? Because through the program, they are developing new attitudes, interests, and goals. So what they do is they exchange numbers, and now they're creating friendships. And sometimes that's what you need. You need a group of like-minded people that are moving in the same direction. And these young people have made a decision to change their lives and move forward. And it really has been great for us. And we know in long term, it's going to be great for Prince George's County, Maryland, and the entire region. Another program that Miss Brave Boy started is our a program for returning citizens. Um, and what we do, we start it's called the Emerging Adult Program, and we start to mentor uh, young people. These are people that are, in prison between the ages of 18 and 26, and they are returning citizens. So when you have less than a year, somewhere between 18 to 12 months on your sentence, we start to a mentoring program with our partners to deal with issues of housing insecurity, employment insecurity, life skills, academic participation, things like that, to prepare people to re-enter society. You can't just get dropped off with $50 or whatever it is and try to expect them to succeed. And then, often people return right to the same circumstances that cause them to be in the position that they're in. So we give them opportunity. We have a mentoring program. There's actually a graduation. We've had speakers. Our last speaker at graduation was Judge Mathis from the television show. He addressed our graduates, and it's really moving. And I mean, some of these young men are brought to tears. They know they have a future when they come out. We have, we're equipping them with the tools to succeed. And one of the most important things is that they know we are invested in their future. You would be surprised how much it really impacts people when they know someone cares that they succeed. And it's always awkward that they're like, wow, you guys are prosecutors and y'all the ones who put us here, but we're like, we put you there, but we don't want you to stay there, not physically and not psychologically and not emotionally. We want you free from all forms of prison to come out as a free man and succeed. So we're really excited where we are with those programs. And, we just hope that we can continue to grow them. Obviously, our resources are limited, but we petition our Annapolis, our legislators and our governor for funds, and they've been really supportive. And so we're looking forward to growing these programs. And so those are some of the things that we do to help, kind of combat youth violence. And we're always open to, like you said, novel ideas. We're always open to do things because we know that these are our citizens. They're returning. They're on our streets. They're returning to our streets. In terms of also in carjacking, one of the things that when you deal with technology, I know this is a STEM situation. One of the things that we know that kind of drive that is that with technology, you used to be able to steal cars, or people could just steal a car. So a car could get parked, you'd come back and the car was gone. And obviously motor vehicle thefts is not, we don't condone or promote that, but obviously there's less interaction and less potential for violence between an auto theft when no one's there. But with the technology and the key fob now, the person needs the key fob to get the car. And so now you have to interact with the actual driver of the car, which now turns what would be a auto theft into a carjacking. And so that technology has kind of driven us towards more carjacking. Now, we did see early in 2023, some of the people in auto theft have been able to mimic. They have a key fob where they can duplicate. So now they don't need to get the one from the driver. They can get in and within a minute of breaking your car and copy that fob. And I'm not a STEM person, but I know they can duplicate cars, and they've been taking cars by duplicating keys. So that's one of the things that our police are working on, and tracking that technology and making sure that we can police that activity. But yeah, hopefully I answered some of the questions that you had. And at the end of it, for me, I think all of us use our resource to help create and support the community, not only just residentially, but also in terms of folks that have like-minded attitudes that want to live in a place that's free of crime. And the last thing I'm going to say on it, I didn't want to go too long, but a lot of these young people don't understand the impact, not only the impact to the person, but to the community. So in another life, when I was practicing law, I did real estate development. We would recruit businesses to come to Prince George's County, right? And so people, prior to National Harbor and things like that, people want retail. People want nice restaurants. People want places to shop for clothes. And it's hard to recruit high-end restaurants and retail when, people don't feel safe. We have people that businesses, when Amazon wanted to come here or things like that, you're recruiting companies that would bring jobs and bring opportunity. And if they feel like the crime rate is such that their employees can't be safe, or the schools are such that their employees' children can't get a good education, they're not going to come. And so they need to understand the long term and the impact, for them to just steal cars. And, a lot of times these young people, we find a car stolen at 11 p.m. It's just on the side of the road by 1 a.m. So they just joyriding, committing an extremely violent crime just to ride around with their friends. But the impact is great, not only on the person who was a victim, but into the entire community. And I'll stop there. I could keep going, but I'm gonna stop there.
Well, Brother Perry, I think you hit on a lot, and I would like to get both you and Director Bazran's input on the cyber and construction reentry program, because we're seeking to address some of the gaps, if you will, that our young people come into the system with. One of the things you mentioned is a lack of, both remorse and a lack of concern about how their conduct is impacting, both the other people who they're stealing from, even putting their own their lives of their victims on the line, and even putting the young people who are committing these crimes, their lives are on the line every time, because who knows whether or not they're going to encounter somebody who has a gun bigger than perhaps the gun that they have, and willing to use it. So we, in our program, what we're seeking, and we'll pull this up, is to turn around that thinking, if you will, Perry, to engage these young people in a way that their minds are changed and transformed. I mean, we would love to have even like a Malcolm X type of metamorphosis, if you will, where people come in, as hoodlums and come out as, people who have memorized the entire dictionary as Malcolm did. But what is your take on that type of reentry format, where we give them not only skills training, but also mental health and mentoring supports, along with even financial incentives? We give the idea is to give every young person a stipend. And for people who don't know, if you have relatives in jail, that those relatives are often time calling upon you through their moms or other relatives to support them, because when you're in jail, it's just like being, basically out of jail, and that you have bills in terms of both the bills that you're responsible for paying that you incurred before you went in jail, and then bills to kind of keep yourself, afloat while you're incarcerated, such as, grooming supplies and even the ability to make very expensive phone calls to your family members. So we provide them some financial incentives so they can be, less of a burden, if you will, financially on their family members. We also give them, again, some, yoga training. And one of the things, Perry, that Senator Watson from Prince George's County, he has suggested that we even add in a boot camp type of environment. He mentioned that there's a similar type of boot camp program out at Fort Meade, I think, in Maryland, where they, actually are using a kind of a military style, environment to kind of, shake up and shake out some of the negativity that they have, basically been raised on, and then, kind of get them, into a mindset where then the academic training can begin. So they first start with that type of, mental health coaching, mindset readjustment, and then go to the training. What do you think, both you and Dr. Bazran, about that type of approach? And I see we've been joined back by Sharifa Maston. What are your thoughts, you guys, on this type of opportunity?
Well, I think in terms of your program, I guess that was the first question you asked, and what were our thoughts about the degree to which that could be an effective strategy? And I think what I have seen from what I've learned is that the program is designed really to address the social determinants of health, which I think is really important. Because if people's basic needs are not met, they will find a way to meet them. And if it means I have food insecurity, I have a mom at home who's a drug addict, I have 5 brothers and sisters I have to take care of, I have to get money, I'm going to go and do it. And that can lead to some issues. However, the one thing that I think, there are a couple of things I think we need to do. We need to use kind of a health equity lens as we're designing these programs, and a racial equity lens, because some of these things are structural kinds of issues, and we have to arm our young people with the skills to deal within those kinds of environments. I think that's critically important. The other thing I'd like to say, we spend a lot of time working within both the juvenile and the criminal justice system. We do provide services and supports to returning citizens, as was said earlier. And so one of the things I think is important is that you have mental health services that are trauma informed and trauma based to deal with the trauma that's experienced before, during incarceration, as people step down. And in addition to the trauma informed services and support, I think we also need to think about something that hasn't been discussed, and that's substance abuse. A lot of people get into substance abuse either right before, in order to self-medicate, or during incarceration. A lot of drugs are, Judge, I mean, I'm sure you know that, it does happen. And for that reason, we do provide substance use disorder services within our jail. And we need to think about, as people step down, how we help them maintain that recovery by connecting them to appropriate care. So those are the things that I think would really make your effort a little more robust and more successful.
I think that's an amazing recommendation. What do you think, Sharifa, as a HR executive? Are you? How do we engage specifically with HR execs like you to let them know that these young people can become rehabilitated and be able to make contributions? In fact, may even be more loyal and willing to stick around than someone who's doesn't have that type of background, who has more options available. What do you think we need to do to engage that community, Sharifa?
That's a great question. And I believe what we need to do is you have to have these programs, but instead of looking right for them to go directly into another organization to work, it needs to be a step process. And that what we need to put in place is working with specific groups of businesses that are willing to give them a chance. One of the programs I've worked with, with Mission to Change, and then also with businesses, is we place them and they work through us for 6 months, and then but they're also getting mentoring in those first 6 months to help with that transition. If at the end of those 6 months they still need more time, they stay with an organization or a company that's like, we're going to help them succeed. Sometimes we expect them to do these classes and just go get a job, but it's not about maintaining. So in continuing to have mental health services, and that is also destigmatizing getting that help, right? Do it in a phase that the next phase is they are working, but they're working with specific partners with the ideal of transitioning formally to an employer for longer term employment. And I've seen it happen. I've had partners that if they could work for, through us for 6 months, they give them that opportunity to convert to that company following that. But what it is that during those first 6 months, it's intensive. You have a mentor who's making sure you are getting the work, that you're showing up on time. When you're talking about dressing professionally,
Mhm.
education, having the knowledge means nothing if you can't present it, speak to it. If you can't be engaging, if people look at you and they're like, oh, you're just in jeans and a t-shirt, they're going to have more. The person that comes in with a button-down shirt and maybe some slacks, that person's going to edge you out. We're not saying you have to change who you are fundamentally, but you have to present yourself as someone who can represent the company they're going to work for. And that's not giving up who you are or your identity. We all have to do it. Everyone on this panel today, we aren't who we were years ago, when we were younger. But someone said, hey, you want to become a leader? You have to dress that part. You have to present that way. So I think that's very important in any program, is having that additional step, and maintaining. And the other thing is, any program needs to be sustaining. We don't want them to do the program and a year later, every we've all probably experienced not having a job, might not even be our own fault, right? The ideal is if they were to lose a job, they should be able to come back and we say, let's see what happened, right? And then we help them get another job because we don't want them to get discouraged. That's a factor of life. You make a mistake, it's consequences. It's what you do with that that's going to help you continue forward. So that's one of my big things from an HR side. I do think practice interviewing is very important. How do you take your current circumstance and how you are where you are and make it a positive for you? And what I'm saying that is, hey, I made a mistake. But you know what I did? I did my time, I acknowledged it, and I changed my life. I'm no longer doing that. And teaching them how to be able to take that negativity and show it as a positive, to their future employers.
Wow, I think that was amazing, Sharif, and again, spoken like an HR executive from a big technology company. You definitely hit on some of the key points. Perry, can I ask you, as you look at, as you mentioned earlier, budgets from the state legislature to fund some of the reentry programs that you all are already doing. What do you think about the budget that we have proposed? It's a budget that, initially, because of the need for, kind of upfront costs, will be a little bit more per student than, the longer term. But, in subsequent years, you can get it down to about $30,000 or so per person. What do you think, about that type of budget and the willingness? What do we need to do in order to be able to sell this to state legislatures and even the county legislature to be able to fund this? I mean, can they not see that the idea of basically bringing down this scourge of youth violence, in particular carjacking, is a gold mine? Meaning to say you can save a lot of businesses who would want to leave, and will they be able to see that as an incentive enough to be able to make the investments that are needed?
Sure. And before I respond to that, I want to mention something that Sharifa said. I want to follow up on that. When we talk to young people, particularly a lot of the young boys, young men who kind of have an interest in sports, we talk about how to present in uniforms. And if you play for the Dallas Cowboys, if you play for the Los Angeles Lakers, you play for that company, you got to wear their uniform. Okay. And so the same thing goes with a business or a company. They have a uniform, whether it's a shirt with a collar, whether it's hard shoes, whatever that culture is. First of all, you need to identify that culture and then you're asking to join their team. So there's an expectation that you're going to keep up with the uniform, wear the uniform in terms of, everything from grooming to appearance. And that's not, you're not selling out. It's not, that kind of a situation, but you asked to join their team. And so if you made a decision to join that team, you got to put on the uniform. And I think they kind of buy into that. You're not selling out, LeBron James is not selling out his friends when he puts on a Lakers uniform. He's putting on his uniform to go to work. And when he gets off work, he puts on, that's when he, as my daughter says, expresses his aesthetic. She said, "This is my aesthetic." And I laughed. I said, well, you can do that when you get off work, but when you go to work, you put on your work clothes and you be about the business of work. But to go back to your question, one of the things is, budgets are data driven. They're results driven. So a lot of, we get a lot of proposals. People come to us, even though we're not a grant funding agency, but they want to be able to say we can impact recidivism and things of that nature, dealing with providing opportunities to returning citizens. But it has to be data driven. People need to be able to, you need to be able to show results. So in 2 years, we train this many returning citizens. From that, we were able to provide jobs and housing opportunities and things of that nature before people invest. But
that's the question though, and that, if I could interrupt,
yeah,
so like, for example, the mayor, her infrastructure academy was started with a $22 million investment, about 21 million from the city, or about 17 million from the city, and about 5 million from Exelon. It was, again, a program that was never tried, because they had never, it was a launch of a new innovative program. But now they do have that data of about 250 some odd people who have been put into the jobs. And so my question is how do we, convey that mindset that, hey, this is a new program. It's built and based on not pie in the sky, but it's based on other programs that are not necessarily in the prisons, but are, but are outside. But, again, an analogy can be drawn. How do you, again, convey that to the people who can pull the trigger and make the funding, to at least give the monies for a demonstration project so we can show that it's feasible?
Yeah, well, what I would say is that, government, when they look at investments, they do it just as people investing in stocks. They have to have some kind of indication that it's a good investment. Whether it might be a new project, but you have proven thought leaders in the field, or people who have a proven track record, right? Because the worst thing someone wants to do is be a council person who voted for funding for a program and then things don't go right, whether it's problems with the issues with accounting. A lot of people have great ideas and have a heart for service, but can't manage money. So if someone you provide, someone $1 million in funding and they don't manage it right, they want to help people, but they don't do the grant reporting properly, then we're all in trouble, right? And so then you're like, I'm not going to invest in any of these programs. So you have to appreciate the risk from the people that are in government. They're taking taxpayer dollars, right? All of us, we work for a week, we get $1,000 in raise, our check is $775. We're like, what's going on with the rest of my money, right? And so you have to be very careful when it comes to protecting taxpayer money. So while you can have a new program, you can have people with past proven performance in different programs, but they have to be able to run the business side. There are a lot of people that have, like I said, a heart for service and have the best intentions, but they cannot do the business end of it. And if you can't run the business end of it, then, the whole program would be in jeopardy. And then once the taxpayers lose faith in the people elected to manage their dollars, they'll change those people out. And so we have to be very careful because, like I said, we have, even from the state's attorney's office, when there was, this big wave of criminal justice reform, everyone that has a nonprofit came and wanted money and said they wanted to impact the community, and that's great. But when it comes to grants, whether it comes from the state or federal or county, you have to be very careful in who and why you invest money. And a lot of times these are, unsolicited proposals, right? So it's not like people put out an RFP and say, hey, we got $1 million. We're looking for ideas. People want, an unsolicited proposal, a non-bid grant. And those are like, I don't know. I see, other people shaking their head, but in reality, it's just not, I think everybody would like to support the programs, but we just have to be very careful in this climate. One word that hasn't come up, and we talk about reentry, and when we always look at where are the stops. And so one of the things you're going to see from the State Attorney's Office and really throughout Prince George's County, I suspect in 2024, I kind of know it, I'm on one of the work groups, we're going to have a renewed focus on truancy. Because what we've seen when it comes to some of our justice-involved youth is there was a pattern of truancy. We've had some of our more high-profile cases with, juvenile crime where there's been 2 and 3 years where we haven't seen regular attendance in school. And a lot of that comes with, a very transient lifestyle, 2 and 3 addresses, and back and forth between Prince George's and District of Columbia, right? So, you could move back and forth 2 or 3 times. It's hard for anyone who's tracking that to know, we only get involved, sadly, when a crime has been committed. And then we're looking like, well, hey, where are the records? Well,
on that note, Perry,
yeah.
Let me ask you this and maybe get Dr. Brazron's opinion as well. We find that one of the problems, even in terms of the schools used to be, as you said, that stop. It used to be a place where authority could be established. And you would look for accountability coming from either the home or at least a school to try to keep these young people from falling through the cracks. But now a teacher as well as a parent can be prosecuted by being, overly aggressive or even just, assertive enough to be able to get the young people, the person that they're dealing with, to understand the ramifications of their, in fact, in some cases, violent conduct. So what do you think we need to do in terms of kind of rolling back some of these laws? We talked earlier about, some of the other laws that got men out of the household, but also those laws that even, prevent parents, to the point where Dr. Brazron would talk about, we are now afraid of children, which is what, and some people are saying is really kind of accelerating this thing, because when they know the child knows that, hey, I can basically switch the table with this gun and make you afraid of me as someone who can be young enough to be your grandchild. It's a very damaging, kind of concept for that child. But so what do you think we need to do, Perry, to reestablish in the classrooms and even in the homerooms the accountability and the self control and discipline that these young people seem to be missing?
Well, that's that's a big question, and that's why I started off my presentation with the definition of community, because one of the things that we have to be careful of is when we ask, there's only so far government can go, if you're asking my opinion. We're not really in it. We want to support the families and support the community. I don't believe we're in a position to stand in the shoes of parents or the community. And so, when people say, what can we do? There's limits on what we can do in terms of where you want government intervention. A lot of people don't want government intervention into those intimate relationships in their life, particularly parent-child. So we just have to be, like I said, very cautious in where we would expect government to intervene.
But see, Perry, if I could
go ahead, I just want to finish. So that's when we would be looking for faith leaders and community leaders. We would be able to support if we need to open a school, we could provide funding. Hey, we have after school activities for nonprofits to come in and run seminars if we needed the support in that nature. But I just don't know, because I work in the government. I don't know. I wouldn't want somebody from the government coming in and telling me, what's going on between me and my kids.
But that's the point, though. I'm saying that right now, your office would come and prosecute a parent whose child calls the police because their parent is disciplining them, or the same way with a teacher who might be, getting up in the face of that young person who needs to have someone in their face. And this is the reason why we have, the thought is about a, reentry program that would have, a more military boot camp style. What do you think that there might be again a demand for us to roll back those anti parenting restrictions, if you will, that are currently in place?
I'm going to push back on that premise. There's a difference between getting in someone's face and abuse. And so why I don't think at any time this office would ever prosecute a parent or an educator for being assertive, right? And that's not something that we would do. That's not something that we would look to do. Now, if that rises to the level of violence, that it becomes illegal, then that's the point where we'd step in. It is problematic if you cannot,
I mean, but that's the thing. But I'm a product of a lot of spankings, though, Perry. So that would have been considered violence during those times.
In the statute, a parent can discipline their child in Maryland. I can't speak to the District of Columbia. And so it also comes to the age, what age. But like once again, we don't have, it's not our practice to prosecute parents for disciplining children. We prosecute child abuse. There is a fine line. I mean, there is a line between discipline and child abuse. And so a lot of people say you can't, you can't punch your 11-year-old son in the eye and say I was disciplining him. You know what I mean? It's just not, we're never going to support that. So look, I got spankings too. And then it got to the point where, at some point they had to sit down and have a real conversation. And I think you have to have parents to, and I really wrote this thing down, the behavior management strategies, right? And I think that's what you're saying. If someone, if you need to come up with a different way to be able to lawfully manage and discipline your child, then we should support that effort. That's what the government should be doing. The government is not going to show up to your mama's house with a switch. That's not what we're in favor of. But I really wrote that down, behavior management strategies, and I'd love to learn more about it. And I think that's something that we should explore. And trust, we've had those issues. We've had issues where we brought a parent in and said, hey, your child's not going to school. And the parent said, oh, you know what? Well, I'm under indictment by your office for child abuse. So now I can't. And then it was like, oh, wait a second. Now we got to dig in the file and say, yeah, actually, you're right. And we've had to come up with different plans. And the school board, I'm not at the school board, they did have a program where people could come to the house in the morning and develop a morning plan and things like that to get the child up to go to school. So these are resources that we have. But we have to, evolve in our thinking. I'm not here to judge or give an opinion either way in terms of parent-child. Right now, my understanding, corporal punishment is not something that's in Maryland schools, not in Prince George's County. So, people don't want educators putting their hands on their children.
And at the same time, the children are basically beating up. I had a case in District of Columbia. A client contacted for a child who was in third grade who beat her up in the classroom. So, and these are the types of people who come.
I don't mean to cut you off, but somebody beating them up. What you're talking about is criminal behavior. So I think there's teachers managing the classroom and a child that commits a crime. They're not. I don't think those two are equal. We're not talking about apples to apples. If a student commits a crime in the courtroom, we want our educators safe. We want them to be protected and have safe working environments. And we will take, full actions against a child that causes danger to an educator. That's not the same. We're talking about a educator managing a student in a nonviolent form. And I think we all support that. I'm just, yeah, I'm gonna turn it over to somebody else.
Yeah, well,
Dr. Bazran, I know we're actually over time, so let's let Dr. Bazran speak on this, and we'll get everybody's final comments.
yeah,
Before
because I
we
am
end it.
going to have to leave. There are a couple of things. First of all, in terms of your funding question, you never talked about whether or not you explored receiving funding from any of the foundations. We have a rich foundation community within the DMV. And so the Annie Casey Foundation has a mission of addressing at risk youth. The Robin Hood Foundation, as you know, our governor was formerly the CEO there, and they also have that as a part of their mission. So you may want to think about whether or not you approach them in terms of getting financial support. The other thing, behavior management does work. However, I think we got to get upstream. You can't wait until a child is 13, 14, 15 to begin to try to use behavior management strategies with them. You have to really begin early on. That's why we have efforts like the PCIT the Parent Child Interactive Therapy Program, which starts with young kids as young as 2, 3, and 4 years old, because it has to be a part of an ongoing relationship, that parent-child relationship. I think the other thing we have to do is it's really important that young people have a caring adult in their life that can be a mentor, it can be a teacher, it can be a parent, it can be a relative, it can be a community member. And so I think we need to think about how we provide that kind of support to young people. So early on, a caring adult, as well as addressing the social determinants of health, I think represent a framework for addressing the issue.
I think that was absolutely well spoken, and I appreciate that. As we conclude, Sharifa, can you give us your final thoughts about new ideas and how important it is for us to wrap our arms around this from a person who represents the business community that has to make a decision every day about whether or not their employees are safe and are willing to make a kind of move based upon that analysis.
I think when you're talking about, employees or workplace, making sure people are safe, it's safe in any environment and it needs to be addressed the same way, right? Even though you can hire an employee, it's not just their work that we are managing. When they say work-life balance, that is what we're managing. So if something's going on in a person's home life, it's impacting their work life. And we have to remember it's the whole person. You want to impact an individual, you impact their family, and you impact their community because it's a circle, right? And that's what, if you listen to what Dr. Bazran said and Mr. Paler, it takes a community for these things to work. It takes a community to get the youth where we want them to go. You mentioned earlier having family involved. You need that, just like you need them involved in school. When you talked about truancy, I remember even when I was in the military working in some of the communities, they tell me a kid wasn't at school, I'd be out there behind the car with what you doing? What we hiding from, And they're like, if they were running something or doing what they weren't supposed to do. They were like, "What are you doing here?" I was like, "Well, you're not at school. I'm here to make sure you get there." But it's having someone who's interested in their success. And you can get one person to be that person for them, and it can make a change. And I think everybody, I had to leave for a little bit, but hearing, when I got back, there is definitely a framework there. The other thing, and me having a nonprofit as well, it's getting the story out, but it's also STEM4US can't do it alone,
That's right.
right? It it is partnering with different organizations. I think it was Mr. Paler who said, statistics, right? It's data driven. If you don't have all the data now, partner with someone who can help you with that data,
Mm.
and you know, get them to have a piece of it. Find what the piece for STEM4US that you want to become kind of the subject matter expert on. It's not going to be the behavioral health piece. You got to partner with someone to bring that to you, right? When you're bringing people in, make sure it's the right people coming in to work with STEM4US. That's what we need. You know, they're not just there. When you think about it, we're trying to get people jobs, but we have to have the right person. If they're not involved in the mission and have the heart for the mission, you don't want that, right? So it's having the right people involved that's going to be providing services and other organizations. We can't do it alone. And we have to make sure, and I say this in anything, I say this in the business world, right? A piece of something is better than a piece of nothing, right? So if we
Right.
share, you know, we share the funds amongst different organizations, help them grow, it helps us grow, right?
Mm-hmm.
It helps get those statistics, those numbers to get even more funding,
That's right.
right? We just can't do it siloed. It's not going to work at all.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you so much. Perry, any last comments you have? You said a whole lot, and we are so grateful that you were able to join us and that the state's attorney deputized you to be in this conversation, if you will.
Well, I just want to thank you again. And really, I just want to continue. I want to urge you to continue your good works. And I think you've got a lot of good advice here. And I really like the part about partnering with other nonprofits and other foundations. There's resources outside of the government. And so continue to explore those and just continue to do the great works that you're doing.
Excellent. Well, again, we want to thank you all, and let's, as my father, former city councilman in Memphis, one of the first Muslim Americans in that role, to say, working together, he used to teach us, is winning together. And he was a former aide to Dr. King the night before his assassination. So we're very, grateful that we have those types of shoulders to stand upon, and I think that that's going to help us lift us. So again, thank you all, and I will conclude at this point. Thanks so much, Dr. Vazron. Please send our greetings to the mayor and Deputy Mayor Turnage. Thank you, Perry. Sorry about that, Dr. Vazron. What were you saying?
And no, I said absolutely. I just want to make sure that we.
But I do have to jump off, so thank you very much.
Yeah, that we continue to understand that we got to support our young people, and we got to make sure their basic needs are met, and we have to make sure that they have the proper adult in their life.
Thank you, Dr. Vazron.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sharifa, for your outstanding service.
Thank you.
As I conclude, I want to make an announcement here this afternoon. Earlier this morning, we were informed that, again, we spoke about shoulders that we stand on. And one of the shoulders that we have stood on for the past 10 years of STEM4US is one of our personal mentors, and that's Judge Arthur Burnett Sr. Judge Arthur Burnett was a man who was amazing in so many ways, in that he was a person who left such a legacy. And this morning, I was informed that Judge Burnett, who himself was the first federal magistrate judge. We had a magistrate judge on, but the first African-American magistrate judge to ever be appointed, passed away, surrounded by loved ones. Judge Burnett, as Sharifa may remember, I think in our last board retreat, participated. And he was literally a man who worked himself, until his last breath. And he was complaining about the fact that his email inbox was inundated with hundreds of unread emails. Sharifa, as you may remember, our Judge Burnett saying, and we are grateful that we had Judge Burnett to lean upon, and to and to be able to be our role model, if you will. Judge Burnett's wife, a beautiful woman who we really enjoy the company of. We want to send to you our condolences. Judge Burnett's children, including, as you may know, Sharifa was one of the first. In fact, he was the inventor of the Viagra pill. So for people who enjoy that pill, both the men and the women, they should again all think about Judge Burnett, and I think that his legacy we are going to celebrate over the 2024 year, as again a board member of STEM4US up into his very final breath. So we ask that you all keep Judge Burnett and his family in your minds. And if you know his family, please reach out to them. And we believe that our young people are going to be benefited as a result of Judge Burnett's investment in STEM4US as we roll out our Cyber Reentry Program and work to try to end this scourge of youth violence. Again, it has been an honor to be with you. I wish you all a wonderful and prosperous remainder of this year, and a blessed beginning of the new year. This is Talib Karim, Executive Director of STEM4US. Don't hesitate to reach us. If you have not already done so, reach us by leaving a chat, and also you can reach us at STEM4US, www.STEM4US. We'll put that into the chat here so you can see it, www.STEM4US.org. We are here for you, and we look forward to, or as my father used to say, working together with you and winning together with you. So without any further ado, I wish you good day or good evening.